Assalamu alaikum. How's everybody? Alhamdulillah, the night of the 25th. Alhamdulillah. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala sayyidina rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. So I have 2 nights with you, tonight and tomorrow night. And then Friday, both of us, but it's a different program. And then maybe I'll speak to you at the end, the very last Taraweeh, as we say goodbye to Ramadan. So for tonight and tomorrow, I want to focus on wrapping up my theme, which is the sciences and the disciplines of the Quran. And we want to wrap it up by talking about the etiquette, the proper etiquette and decorum, the adab that we should have towards the Quran. So the most important thing is that the Quran is a book of guidance and mercy. وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. So for the believers, the Quran is a book of guidance and mercy. It's not a book of, directions, GPS directions. It's not a science book. It's not a history book. And I know I've been saying this, but it's important to repeat that because you're going to get from the Quran what you bring to the Quran. I spent many years of my life in the academy, the Western Academy, studying Islam with non-Muslims and studying Islam with Muslims in the Western Academy. I met many people from all walks of life, atheists, Muslims, non-practicing Muslims, Sunnis, Shias, a lot of Jewish professors. A lot of these people knew and know a lot about Islam, a lot more about Islam than many of the people I studied with at Al-Azhar. Yes, they knew a lot, very well versed, but there's a very big difference between the belief and the non-belief. So you're going to get from the Quran what you bring to it. There are many people that in the past sought to look at the Quran to prove it wrong, to find inaccuracies. They're not going to have a very good time. Their life is not going to be very good when they do that. And most of these people, their life ends really, really bad. Remember that, was it the Swedish guy who crashed into a McDonald's and died? Right? Who was making fun of the Prophet? La ilaha illallah. I mean, when you see that, La ilaha illallah, subhanallah. وَكَانَ أَمْرُ اللَّهِ قَدَرًا مَقْدُورًا. When Allah wants something to happen, it's going to happen. So people, not happy with someone's death, but it's a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah tells us that's what's going to happen when you try to come to the Quran with that kind of attitude. So the big message for us, or the question we have to ask ourselves is, why do we go to the Quran? Are we seeking guidance, or are we not seeking guidance? Or do we feel like guilty, I have to go to the Quran? And the second question we want to ask ourselves is, when do I go to the Quran? So do you only go to the Quran in Ramadan, or do you only go to the Quran when somebody dies? Like in the Arab world, when there's an azza, when there's the funeral, everyone goes to the Quran. And I bet you, if they're Arab, especially Egyptian people in the audience, we all have a library at home of all of the masahif we get from all of the people's funerals. This is my uncle's mushaf, and this is my aunt's mushaf, and this is auntie of our neighbor, she died, and they gave out on the front page, it will be, ala ruh al-marhum, for the soul of the deceased. So we have a stack of these masahif at home. So do you only go to the Quran then? Or do you go to the Quran all the time? Have you ever gone to the Quran when you have to make a business decision? Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought about going to the Quran before you have a game, if you're an athlete, before you're going to perform? Have you ever thought about looking at the Quran? For those people probably like, no, I don't. But it will surprise you. وَكَمْ مِنْ فِئَةٍ قَلِيلَةٍ غَلَبَتْ فِئَةٍ كَثِيرَةٍ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. How many a small group is given victory over a larger group? The underdog always wins. That's motivation. So when you go to the Quran at all of these points in your life, not just the quote-unquote religious times, not just, I have a test tomorrow, I got to read Surah Yasin 50 times rather than study, or so I'm sick and I want to get better. That's okay, but in addition to, we need to be going to the Quran all the time. So one of the takeaways I want us to have from Ramadan is I want us to think about developing a daily routine with the Quran. As I said before, it could be as simple as just listening to it in the morning when you wake up, while you're doing your morning routine, 10-15 minutes. Just start with something like that. Just start with something like that. And then the next level, you have to have a minimum of the Quran memorized, like Al-Fatiha, okay, I hope. And then the last 3 surahs, Ikhlas, Falaq, and Nas. If you know that, then you're good. Then go back and memorize Ayat al-Kursi. And if you have those, then you have enough to live an Islamic life. Then target those surahs in which attached to it are important benefits, like Surah Al-Mulk, which we're about to read right now. This is the you know, the Willy Wonka. This is the Willy Wonka ticket. Okay, this is the golden ticket, because this is the surah that will protect you from torment of the grave, torment of the hellfire. Is Surah Al-Mulk. So how about from now till next Ramadan, we all of us in the community plan that I'm going to memorize Surah Al-Mulk. It's not that long. It's like how many ayahs? 30. Are you sure, Imam Rafai? In Imam Rafai's Mus'haf, it's 30 ayahs. So we'll go with 30 ayahs. Okay, so we have 52 weeks, or not 52 weeks, we have 52 weeks minus the 4, whatever that is. So we have 11 months from now until next Ramadan to memorize Surah Al-Mulk together. And the thing about Surah Al-Mulk is you recite it every day before you sleep. So it's not just you have it memorized in your head, but when you memorize something, you got to go back to it over and over again. I'm not saying we have to sound like Anas, okay? That will not happen, no matter right? Just like it will not happen that I'll play in the NBA or the NFL, right? But I can memorize the surah and read it every night before I sleep, alhamdulillah. So I want just to push let's push ourselves just a little bit, so that every day I'm going to do something with the Quran. You're going to get from it what you put into it, and it will give you more than you can possibly imagine. But you have to believe that it is a healing, and you have to believe that it is a mercy. When I was in college, for whatever reason, I developed this very firm belief that I have till today. No matter how difficult things are, and alhamdulillah, I've had very difficult moments in my life, I always think of the verse, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. And I firmly believe in my heart of hearts that if Allah has given me something, no matter how soul-crushing it seems, that Allah has also given me the capacity to deal with it. I don't know what that is. I don't know what the way out is. And sometimes you fumble around. But because of that belief, I always recite that verse. And alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, it gives me comfort. I find a way, maybe it's not the best way, but I find a way out of that soul-crunching situation. So it is a healing. It's not just a book that you're going to read and you have to memorize it because you're going to get this benefit in the hereafter. It's going to actually heal you now. It's going to solve the problems that you have now. But you have to live that kind of life as well. So you have to bring to the Quran that kind of attitude. The attitude that you're looking for guidance, the attitude that you're looking for healing. Many verses in the Quran, by the way, heal. Like we recite the Quran like ruqya, to heal people that are sick. And subhanAllah, you recite the verses and they're healed. You're like, whoa, what's that? So this is not like any other book. This is something that is beyond what we've experienced. So I want us to think about that, and I want us to promise ourselves that we'll develop, between now and the Eid, think about how you can develop some kind of routine with the Quran every day. Okay, story time. Did I tell you the time I almost got thrown into the dungeon of the Vatican? Okay, I'll tell you that another time. Did I tell you? No? Another episode. Maybe that's next Ramadan. Did I ever tell you the story of when I lost my passport in Medina? Yes. Okay, so I have to see who's been with me long, so you know that story. Have I told you the story about almost running out of gas in the desert in the Emirates? Yeah, okay. Most of you, yes, some of you know. Okay, well, maybe another time we mention those stories. Being thrown in the dungeon of the Vatican, that was pretty scary stuff. But alhamdulillah, I didn't get thrown in the dungeon, but we can talk about that another time. Let me tell you a story. Remember the sheikh I told you about, Muhammad Amin al-Baghdadi, who blew on the girl's eyes, okay? Remember how I said that in the story, and these are real stories, by the way. I mean, I'm trying to spice it up, but this really happened. He said to his student, Sheikh Ahmed Mursi, don't tell anybody, because I don't want people to start coming and asking for like these things from me. And you can tell, after I die. So there's another student of Muhammad Amin al-Baghdadi. I want to tell you his story. His name was Sheikh Ahmed Hamada, radiyallahu anhu. Sheikh Ahmed Hamada is again one of these people that no one's ever heard of. He was a Shafi'i. He used to teach the Majmu'ah. The Majmu'ah is an encyclopedia that Imam al-Nawawi wrote. It's a commentary on al-Shirazi's work in Shafi'i fiqh. It's like 20 volumes. It's like literally this big. It's an encyclopedia of fiqh. He used to teach that in the Azhar and in the Hussein Mosque. He had memorized the Quran in the 10 recitations, and he used to he used to teach the students the recitations of the Quran. He lived till he was 92, and he never married, and he was completely dedicated to worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every single day in his life, he prayed 12 rak'ahs duha, sunnah prayer, and the 11 rak'ahs tahajjud prayer, except the day that he died. So he was just one of these people that was completely plugged in. So my sheikh is narrating this story to me, okay? Sheikh Ali is telling me the story that he went to Sheikh Ahmed Hamada's house once. He lived in behind Sayyida Sukaina, who is the daughter of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, which is to say that's not Potomac and Bethesda, okay? It's another part of Cairo. So my sheikh went to Sheikh Ahmed's house, and the sheikh, led them in prayer. And then after like Dhuhr or whatever, Asr prayer, and then after the prayer, there was a knock on the door, they opened the door, and there's this long line of people. Long line of people, I mean 10, 15 people. And the sheikh lived in a very small apartment. So the sheikh let him in, my sheikh let them in. And then the first guy, he goes to Sheikh Ahmed, kisses his hand, he said, Maulana, my son is sick and we can't afford the medicine. And then the sheikh said, Tawfiq inshallah. And then he leaves. And then the next person comes, Maulana, I'm trying to apply for the visa to go to, I don't know, America. Can you please make dua, bit Tawfiq inshallah. And then he leaves. And the next person comes, Ya Maulana, I'm trying to get a job and I applied to this company and I couldn't. Please help me, I want to get this job, bit Tawfiq inshallah. And the sheikh is telling me that one by one, all of these people come to the sheikh as if it's like a kiosk of dua. He's saying, Maulana, I need this done. And then the sheikh says, bit tawfiq inshallah, bit tawfiq inshallah, with Allah's grace, tawfiq inshallah, and then he leaves. So my sheikh is saying, yeah, he didn't enter what the hell is going on? That doesn't seem, I've never seen this before. So my sheikh is saying, I took all of those people's names down and addresses, and I sought to follow them to see what happened. Because I know this is very strange. So he said, I went to the first guy and I said, the other day you were at Sheikh Ahmed Hamada's house and you were asking for, somebody was sick. He said, oh, alhamdulillah, all cured, alhamdulillah. Okay, he went to the second person, you were applying for a visa to go to America. Alhamdulillah, I got the visa, look, it's on my passport, I'm traveling next week. He goes to the third, you were looking for a job, alhamdulillah, khalas, I'm hired. He was to the fourth person, you wanted to get married. He says, oh, alhamdulillah, I got married and we had a successful marriage and we moved in together, alhamdulillah. Every single person's dua was answered. Now, Imam As-Suyuti radiallahu anhu, he says that there has to be amongst us at every age somebody like this, somebody whose dua is answered, so that everyone will gather around this person to see the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you see the man whose dua was answered, a man who was completely 110% for worship. All he did was worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He prayed all of the sunnahs, the duha, the tahajjud. All he did was read Quran, teach Quran, read fiqh. He never got married. He didn't even own the apartment. The landlord of the building, he saw that he was a Mubarak person, so he let him stay in the apartment for free so that the barakah would, I don't know, flow over the building or something like that. I mean, he had no connections to the dunya. But when his heart was connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all it took was a tawfiq, bit tawfiq inshallah, bit tawfiq. Now you might not believe the story, but ask yourself, has anyone ever made dua for you and it's been answered? Have you asked your parents to make dua, an imam to make dua, a teacher to make dua? Have you ever made dua and seen it answered? That's that moment of purity that we seek tonight on the night of the 25th and all of the nights. Just a pure moment with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where we lay ourselves bare and we believe without any shadow of a doubt that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants something, He will say kun fayakun. That if Allah allows something to be, it will happen. That if Allah wants to alleviate the suffering of people, it will be alleviated. That if we ask Allah for forgiveness, we are forgiven. That if we ask Allah for acceptance, we are accepted. We have to come with that level of clarity, the way that the Shaykh is. Now, why do I have this story? Why is this story important? So I pass it on to someone like you. So you will hear, no, there are people like that. There are people like that who are connected, who want nothing from this dunya, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places them in the community, in different communities, so that we gather around them. So inshallah, think about that as we turn to Allah ta'ala tonight in our dua. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.